Good evening and welcome to our show, Going Public. I'm Renee Fonseca, and joining us tonight is Mr. Bubba Ongeron, the superintendent for the Terrebonne Parish School District. I want to again thank you for joining us today. I know with school fixing to start, you must be quite busy,
A little bit, yeah,
a little
yeah.
busy.
Uh-huh.
I know that a new transportation system has being implemented, and we've talked about it previously on the
Uh-huh.
show.
Right.
Can you give us a little update on what's taking place and what parents may be able to expect once school
Sure,
starts?
certainly. So, before we start with transportation, I'd like to take this opportunity to just welcome our kids back and tell our families that we're eager and excited to have your kids back, parents. It's going to be a great year. So thank you for entrusting us with your kids. We're looking forward to having them for this school year. So, with transportation, it's important that I think we reflect on what our mission is. Our mission is to engage, educate, empower every student every day. So it's like 5 E's: engage, educate, empower every student every day. And then when you take it out a layer further, the vision, or part of our vision, says this. It says that 100% of a guaranteed and viable curriculum will be effectively taught to 100% of our students. Okay, so 100% of a guaranteed and viable curriculum. So when you hear guaranteed and viable, it means that we have a top tier curriculum at every grade level, every subject. It's tightly aligned to standards, and standards in every grade are vertically aligned to the grade that follows it. So like if I have first grade standards, they're going to build to second grade standards, and there's little to no overlap. So if any standards are not taught, or some of the curriculum is not taught, it creates gaps. So if a kid's absent often, or if they're late to school, or whatever it may be, it creates gaps. And as gaps are created, they exponentially grow as a kid progresses down to higher grades. And we've seen that. We've seen that a lot. So we're very committed to 100% of the curriculum to 100% of the kids. It's hard to do, but we've got to commit to that. So with that said, that's been our vision for quite a while. We didn't develop that recently. It's been what we've been focusing on for the last several years. So we identified a problem, and that was buses were getting to school late on a regular basis. I was hearing that from 4 different groups. I was hearing it from teachers. My kids are late. They're missing instructional time. That was a serious concern. Principals, we have a group called Superintendent Leadership Advisory Committee, and we sit and we talk about issues and concerns, and we try and resolve things. The predominant issue they had was transportation, buses being late, because they knew their kids were missing instruction. That was their concern. It wasn't because it was inconvenient for duty teachers or anything. It was loss of instructional time. So I heard it and I listened. And the only answer I could give them was that we're short drivers. It's a national crisis, and they were, I think, or I was sensing, not satisfied with that answer. And I wasn't either. I didn't think it was a satisfactory answer to keep using that. So the question is, what do we do about it? So if that's happening, and I've heard the same thing from parents. Parents were addressing the same situation. My kid's missing school, or even from parents, we had the back end of the school day where they were getting home late. And there are a lot of after school activities and things that kids were not getting home in time to kind of attend after school. That was also a problem. I heard bus drivers were kind of getting the brunt of it as well. Like they were kind of getting, why are you late? What's going on? And kind of, really kind of getting asked some tough questions that they couldn't give an answer because that was their route. So we had to do something about it, or we could say, let's just keep it the way it is. We're okay with kids being late, but we did something about it. Matter of fact, the first thing we did last year, we tracked times. We wanted to see, well, how late are buses getting to school? Like, let's track it and see. So we had administrators check times for 2 weeks straight in September, and we did it again later in the fall, closer on, late fall, early winter. 28 minutes, 30 minutes, persistently late, 40 minutes, and that's like 1, 2, 3 buses at the majority of our schools. So there was a lot of buses getting on time, but we had large buses at every school getting school persistently late. We had to fix something, right? So the problem was we had 28 vacant routes. So 28 routes where we had no driver. So to remedy that, drivers were stepping up and not only doing their run, but dropping off their kids, doing their run, and then doing the vacant run as well. So we call that doubling up. Well, when you double up, you're helping, but you're going to get that second batch to school later. So if you do that on your first run, and drivers had 3 runs typically, if I double up on my first run, I'm late to my second run. If I have to double up on my second run, I'm going to be doubly late at the third run. And that's when they were getting school like 40 minutes, 30 minutes late because of the doubling up on the previous 2 runs. So we had to fix some things. So we worked really hard on recruiting drivers. One of the problems that we saw was that people were not inclined to go get trained to be a bus driver and leave their income to get trained for 3 weeks of time to be a bus driver because there was no income coming into the house. So we said, you know what? We're going to pay them $100 a day for training just so we could help them bridge that gap between leaving a job to becoming a bus driver. That was one thing we did. Then we did this massive marketing campaign. I came here and we talked about, what we can do to help recruit drivers and things like that. So that was one thing. We asked for consultant support, these experts in transportation. What could we do? Their number one things they told us was you have way too many stops. Even if you have enough drivers with the stops you have, we're stopping at every house. They said you'll never get to school on time. So we could keep doing that and get late or fix things. So we took some measures and we did 4 things. 4 things. We did, number one, instead of stopping at every house, we made community stops. And we put a designated distance for every grade level. So elementary has like a 200-yard span where the stops are going to be. Now, I was told last night that in the past, not all that long ago, the rule was every 7 houses we'd put a stop for elementary kids. Well, that's about the distance we have now. 200 yards is about seven houses. So we're kind of going back to kind of what we've done. Okay, I'm not saying that's why we've done it, but it kind of matches to kind of how we've done it before. As we get upper in grades, middle school, the stops are a little further, 400 yards, and in high school, it's 600 yards. Now, just to kind of put that into mileage distances, like 200 yards is 1/10 of a mile. Okay, it's like 7 houses. You can see that house down the street. Now, and I know parents that understand this, and it is inconvenient, but what we ask them to do is if there's a concern about their child walking to the stop, you can probably walk out to the edge of the driveway, make sure they're there, kind of monitor that kind of process. It's hard to do. I get it. I'm not saying that's an easy thing, but I think that's what's going to have to happen in order for them to feel comfortable until they're really comfortable about this whole process. So that's one thing we did, community stops. So we did that throughout the district. We made adjustments if there were some situations. We may have the community stops a little closer to one another or in very strategic spots. So that's all been put out. It's on our website. Parents can go reference that. We have the AM routes. We put PM routes up today, which is Wednesday. So we have AM and PM routes. So you can go look at the specific stop. And it also has like the time. Hopefully those times are going to be pretty precise. I mean, drivers did these practice runs and they kind of made sure everything was going to flow well. They gave feedback so we can make further adjustments. So I want parents to know this as well. It's going to be rough for a couple of weeks. It will be. But we're going to keep refining and getting it better. And after about 2 to 3 weeks, we're confident kids are going to be at school on time. That's our priority. It goes all the way back to our vision, which is 100% of the curriculum to 100% of the kids. They've got to be there for that to happen. So that's one thing we did. The other thing we did, we made what's called no service zones, okay? And by Bessie's the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. Bessie has that you're not authorized to provide bus service within a 1-mile radius of a school. So we're following that recommendation from Bessie. Matter of fact, we've taken the 1 mile and we've carved out certain streets that and heavily traveled boulevards. We don't want kids walking across major roadways. Now, this is not a walking zone, okay? So I know we have in our mind that if I don't have bus service, I must have to walk. It's a no service zone, which means parents are encouraged to drop their kids off if there's a problem. If they can't walk, we ask that they please drop them off. And that's the only way we could reduce the amount of stops is by doing that and making community stops. So with all that said, all that done, we went from 28 vacant routes to 9 vacant routes. So we've reduced the amount of vacant routes tremendously. And we have 8 people in training that might be ready within a couple of weeks. So we're looking at maybe 0 vacant routes in about 2 to 3 weeks. So that's encouraging, and we're doing a lot of things. We went from 6,000 stops to 4,500 stops. Now, I'm not like proud of that, but that's kind of what it takes to get to the point that we're going to get kids to school on time on a regular, consistent basis.
And once again, if any parent has any question, do they contact transportation or do they contact each individual school?
Probably, so transportation doesn't get inundated, contact the school. The schools are well versed on kind of what's going on. They could hopefully answer it at that level. Then we'll come to transportation if that's not what works for them.
Okay, well, I want to thank you again for taking time out of your day
All right,
and joining us.
Yes, thank you.
I would like to thank you, our viewers, for watching. Don't forget to join us every week on Going Public. Have a good night.